Welcome to Iron Mantis Chronicles, a Kung Fu podcast for warriors, thinkers, and seekers. Here, we dive into the art of mastery, the philosophy of movement, and the stories that shape us.
I met Raymond Fogg in January of 1992. The training was at his Kung Fu school in Marshall, Texas. And it was the third story of an old Sears building. The inside was probably around 3,000 square foot open floor space, wood floors. The whole place was painted pretty much red with Chinese characters and lots of photographs up on the wall. There was an area for the iron palm training and the iron arm training, and there was one heavy bag in the corner. And that was pretty much it. There was an altar, which had, of course, the late Grand Masters on it, upside down fire sign, which means patience and or control, and whatnot, some other pictures and whatnot. And of course, there was a weapons rack with a lot of the different weapons in there. I trained with him and Marshall for 3.5 years, almost every day. Sometimes I was training like 8 hours a day. And then I moved to Austin, and then I started training with him, driving back and forth monthly. I did that for several years. Well, one of the big differences of training Kung Fu was, besides the forms and, of course, iron palm training and using De Tao Jiao, iron arm training, and the classical weapons. Besides that, it was heavy in fitness because Sifu Fogg was also a Marine in Vietnam, so a lot of that mindset came into the training. I've even had later years people come and watch me teach and ask me if I was in the Marines, and I was like, of course no, but I guess that carried over. When classes started, classes were from 6 to 9 p.m. Once we bowed in, there was no talking, no water breaks, no bathroom breaks, unless he said so. So it was very disciplined in that way. And I would say one thing that pops out is just the level of fitness and strength training that I had to do, which was a lot different, like holding a horse stance. At one time I had to hold a horse stance for 1 hour. We used to get into what was called Tom Tui's or pistols, single leg squats. I'd gotten to where I could do 120 at one time, 60 on each leg. And that led me into later being able to do those pistols, those single leg squats, on empty soda cans without crushing them. Another thing we did a lot was finger strength training. So we did a lot of one finger, one thumb push-ups. And it got to the point where I was doing handstands in that as well. So it's that type of fitness training, and which I didn't understand why we were doing so much fitness training until I started fighting full contact. And then it really showed why you never want to run out of gas. Because there was times when I'd be fighting other guys that were just as good as me, but maybe the third round I was able to start winning just because they started gassing. There was a big emphasis on lower leg strength and also flexibility. So flexibility for strength and it'll help you from getting as many injuries. Yeah, every student was doing the same thing every class. Some of us would come in early and do, other training and stay late. So the difference was some people would do that. Some people just train more on their own. But pretty much everybody was doing the same thing. It was all levels together. Whether it was your first day or you've been there years, everyone did the same thing. And the playing hands, the way we sparred without gear, that was also very different. Lots of grabbing, plucking, pulling, striking, kick, takedowns. It's controlled sparring. It's not full contact, but it could get rowdy. You could catch an elbow. You could get a black eye, broken nose, busted lips. Ribs messed up. Because there's one thing you'll see a lot of people in Kung Fu, they'll do their forms, but then when they do some drills, but when they go to fight, it doesn't look like they're using their style. It looks more like kickboxing. So I would say that it was a way for you to apply everything you've been doing, all your fitness, your flexibility, the kicks, the forms, everything that you train is you're able to apply that all in playing hands. Playing hands the way we fight, which allows us to use our techniques and develop our techniques. Like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I mean, it's hard to, master Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu when you're standing up kickboxing. So you need a format that can help you further develop your techniques and your skills. And so playing hands allowed that. When you're training that hard with other people, it definitely brings you closer, and it allows you to laugh and enjoy the moments because everyone's just suffering together. So as hard as you work, it's also balanced with this, joy and having fun and whatnot. That's why a lot of times after class is over at 9 p.m., but a lot of times we stay till midnight. We'd all be hanging out, talking, sharing stories, maybe working on other stuff because we did it because we loved it, and we would just push ourselves to the very limit. And then when class is over, everyone's, hanging out. It's just like during class, your teacher's not your friend, he's your teacher. But after class, you can hang out. Not all teachers do that. But we had an environment where we could do that. You're building that community, doing things together outside of the training. And I guess, we're there for each other on birthdays or when people's moving, it's a community, an extended family. I want to point out that I got to train also with Sifu Foggs, one of his teachers. Okay. And it was Chung Ho Yin and Henry Chung. And Chung Ho Yin was a student of Wang Fan. They call him the Mantis King. So that was the Wang Fan lineage, which was a little different than the lineage of Julon that I was learning. And Julon had learned from the monks and then also Juchi Men. But it's all the same family. But, everyone has their own ways of expressing. And Chung Ho Yin was just known to be an amazing fighter. He was also, he knew Chinese medicine. He was a very knowledgeable and scholarly person. He carried himself as, like what you would think of as a grandmaster, mastering the different things in life. That's not only martial arts, but, maybe other parts of life like the art side, the writing, the music. Sometimes in the Kung Fu we talk about mastering multiple things in your life to make you well-rounded. And I feel like he was a great example of that. He had also trained some Qigong iron body stuff, and he would show us, not only, his level of skills, but he would also, share that training with us. So that's where I also got to learn more of the Maigong, or the body conditioning, the body hardening. And then, of course, his son, Henry Chung, got to train with him a lot too. And they just became, extended family. And I learned so much from them. And the Wang Fan lineage is, pretty amazing. They produced many great fighters, Brendan Lai being one of them. Then I will say it was through the Chungs that I met Lily Lau. And Lily Lau became my Eagle Claw Kung Fu teacher. So I was in Michigan for one of Chung's tournaments, martial art tournaments, and I had done a demonstration. It was a Mantis form called Descending Eagle. And she had seen that, and afterwards she came up to me and liked the demonstration, and we started talking, and then she offered to share a form with me to teach me there. And I fell in love with the Eagle Claw right off the bat. And then from there I started training with her. I trained with her for many years. I loved training with her. She's very knowledgeable. Of course, she's the daughter of the late General Lao Fat Man. And what's interesting is you tie back in the Chungs. Chung Ho-Yen also trained with Lao Fat Man at one time. So there is this connection between the seven-star praying mantis and the eagle claw. The eagle claw forms are way more physically demanding. You have to display high kicks in the forms, almost gymnastic types of moves, your flexibility. It's really an athletic style of Kung Fu. It makes you extremely strong. And also the hand strength from the eagle claw training. So I really developed a better understanding of how to use the Yin Jiao, the eagle claw techniques. And it was through Lily Lau that I ended up doing a trip to China with her and also Brendan Lai. So that was an amazing trip. We toured all over. We did all the tourist stuff, but we also hit tournaments like in Qingdao and in Beijing. So she took me around and introduced me to a lot of people throughout not only China, but in Hong Kong. What was nice was, since Brendan Lai was on the trip, I got to spend a lot of time with him, while we're traveling, while we're going to different events and dinners and tournaments. And I remember in the Beijing tournament, Wu Ben, Jet Li's teacher, was running that tournament, and I had competed. And I got the silver medal, and I remember that two things after that, which was even more important than the medal, was there was a gentleman came out of the stands and was asking me where I had learned that style of praying mantis, because it was very similar to his village style. And so that was a nice compliment. I felt good about that. And then Brendan Lai came up and, he gave me compliments on my form, and that's a huge honor. So yeah, I've got to train with Lily Lau for many years, and it really made a huge impact on me. So Sifu Fog and I had made a trip to Hong Kong in 1997 to visit Lee Kam Wing, and that was, of course, in Hong Kong. We had a great time there. I would say my first memory is we went to his studio, walked up the steps into it. It was a tiny little spot. And Sifu Lee and Sifu Fog were sitting down, and Sifu Lee also had another student there. And basically what we did was, like, I would demonstrate a form, and then the student would demonstrate the same form. And we pretty much did that for like 45 minutes. And I had a great time, because at that time I had like over 100 forms in my head. And so we could do forms for hours. And so it was a lot of fun. So that was a great way to, start off getting to know someone, is, showing your Kung Fu, not just talking, So, we were able to see some of the pictures of Raymond Fogg and Julon School. In a lot of the pictures, of course, having the other students of Julon in it, like Raymond Nelson and Carl Albright. So, it was nice to be in Hong Kong and seeing pictures of, the Julon family, our lineage there as well. And, of course, Julon was Kung Fu brother of Lee Kam Wing. So it was a family. And later, Sifu Lee started coming to the United States, and we started hosting him and doing a lot of seminars and all over the States. And then he would come to Marshall, and we did a lot of training there. So I got to train with him for many years, and, another master who was able to further help me understand the Mantis system. Well, Sifu Lee was someone who had students all over the world. He was someone who was able to gather many types of martial artists, alpha males together, and was able to help many different countries, and also organize the curriculum, the forms. So he did a lot to help spread praying mantis throughout the world. Now, I don't know if anyone who has done the work at his level. His success is unparalleled for sure. His books that came out inspired people all over the world. And he was a good friend of mine. So Josephus Colvin, aka Kung Fu Joe, he's a old friend of Sifu Fogg's. They're both from Washington D.C. and Kung Fu Joe's especially was Hung Gar and the Shaolin. Hung Gar is the tiger crane system of Kung Fu. They're also known as the Keepers of Shaolin. Their history goes, far back to the Shaolin as well. But it's mainly the combination of the tiger techniques and the crane techniques. So it's a southern style, which is different than the northern style. It's all Kung Fu, but there's a heavy emphasis on stance training. Not only stance training, but not only holding stances, but moving stances, footwork, your mobility through the stances. And I'm, of course, met Joe through Sifu Fogg. And once again, we kind of kicked it off and we started training. And then he started showing me a lot of stuff. And I became a student of his as well. And his training was very intense. I think that you would hear the word again more than anything else. So when he taught you something, he was not going to, the session wasn't going to be finished until you did it perfect. And that could take a lot of repetition. So you just knew you're going to have to do it right now. There was no doing it later, because a lot of times, doing it later means you ain't going to do it at all. So he was very precise. He wanted every little technique done perfect. And there was a structure from the feet up the legs, the waist, the hands. Everything had to be done correctly. Not only correctly, but strong. Focus had to be on point. Intensity, the spirit. Stephen Colvin was also known to be an amazing fighter. I've been fortunate enough to just have a lot of teachers that were just, excellent fighters. And Kung Fu Joe actually got his nickname Kung Fu Joe from the karate guys. So, back in his days, we're talking 60s, early 70s and whatnot, times were a lot different. It was not uncommon for someone to walk into someone else's school, watch the class, and at the end challenge the teacher. And a lot of times if the teacher lost, they would give up their black belt. They'd hand their black belt over. So Kung Fu Joe did this a lot. He would go around and, he was trying to show that Kung Fu worked. And so he always told me, he's like, he said he never lost, but he didn't win everyone either. He said he won a lot, but there was a lot of times it was toe for toe because, these are some tough guys. And it was from Joe doing this that the karate guys gave him the nickname Kung Fu Joe. Oh, just, the thing about, Joe, like many of the other teachers, we were very close friends as well. It wasn't just a teacher-student. It was a friendship that I had with him. Horacio Lopez Sifu. So Lopez Sifu was a student at the time of Yang Zendo and the Yang family Tai Chi. Tai Chi Chuan. And so I had gone to a seminar in San Antonio in 1996 to learn the Yang family long form. At that point, there was no short form. There was no others. There was no 49, no 13, none of the other ones. So we had gone there for the weekend to learn the 103. And from there, I've always loved Tai Chi. I actually started dabbling in Tai Chi before Mantis. And I fell in love with the form. I started doing it a lot. I had some people ask me to, teach them. And I wasn't, 100% qualified at that time for sure, but I was sharing it. And I remember Lopez Sifu came and we met up and he saw me teaching some of it. And then he offered to help, correct me, give me some tips. And I was living in Austin, Texas, and he was in San Antonio at the time. And we kicked it off, and I started going there every Friday for years to train the Yang family style Tai Chi Chuan. Well, Lopez Sifu was just a kind soul. I I see him as a healer, not only spiritually but physically. He did a lot of physical therapy with people as well. His level of skill in the forms, I had never seen that. And I know that at one time he was for the International Yang Family Association. He was the guy who was there to check people's forms and correct them. So he was at a very high level, and I was attracted to that. I was attracted to his detail. I mean, he truly knew what he was doing. And so I had learned long form from him, and then I had like I say, I originally learned it from Yang Zendo, but I really got the details and got to know. It took me several years, of course, many years to really truly understand the form and how to do it right. And then, of course, the 67 sword and the 13 saber. And David Pickens is a good friend of mine as well. He is a Sui Jiao Sifu, and he was a student of the Iron Butterfly. For those of you who don't know that, I recommend looking that up. One of the top wrestlers in our history of Chinese wrestling. Sui Jiao is Chinese wrestling. It's like one of the oldest forms of martial arts. So if you think about judo, Japanese judo, so of course with the throws and takedowns, that's the emphasis. They have their own particular way of doing the ground fighting. It's definitely more, self-defense, military mindset for sure. But there is a competition side to Sui Jiao as well. And they wear called a hero skin, kind of like a gi top, and they have a belt similar to what you would see in judo and karate, because you have to have a uniform that's going to hold up under pressure. So what was nice about training with Sifu Pickens was, first of all, we were close friends too. We still are. Is he was training with him? It helped me to start reverse engineering my forms, and I started finding all these throws within our forms, and so that was a real eye opener. So what I have found is, sometimes cross training is what helps me better understand my own system of praying mantis. Pablo Zamora. So Zamora Sifu is another close friend. We talk. I mean, sometimes we talk weekly, still to this day. He's my Kung Fu uncle. We say Sisuk. Him and Sifu Fog both learned under Chan Poi. They learned Wallam, Tam Tui, praying mantis. That's something I also learned when I was learning 7-star praying mantis. Another very physically demanding, athletic system of martial arts with their forms and weapons. And that's also where Chan Poi is also, was known to be a master of the light skills. So that's, when I talked about I was doing those single legs squats on like empty soda cans and whatnot without crushing them, that pretty much came down through Chan Poi. So Zamora Sifu was probably one of the most athletic, naturally gifted athletes that I've ever trained with. I learned a lot about not only martial arts and what we call Wu Da, the martial ethics, morals and ethics, but how to really present yourself as a professional martial arts in the world, and also running a professional business and at the same time teaching quality martial arts. But he also taught me a lot about health and wellness and fitness. So and we've worked together and been friends together for decades, and like I say, to this day we still stay close. He is besides the Wallam praying mantis style, he's also a Jeet Kune Do instructor, Krav Maga instructor, and I know that he's been running a Muay Thai program at his school for a while as well. Tony Puyo is also one of my 7-star praying mantis. Technically, he's we would say my uncle, but we're close brothers. He reached out to me one time. I was like, because we're in the same Julong family lineage. his teacher and my teacher, Raymond Fogg, and his teacher, Stephen Lorette, both learned under Julon. But Tony, contacted me one time. I'd seen him at tournaments and stuff, and invited me out to San Diego area to do some training with him and his students. And I remember when I showed up training with him, he has a very specialized way of we call Mantis boxing, striking from close range, offense without bridging, and then also bridging techniques. But he just was able to show a huge hole in my game. He was able to show where my striking at close range had a lot of holes. And, it was something that a few years before that, Gabriel Salters, he's also a Julon student, also known in the Sui Jiao world, also known as Franklin Salters. But Gabriel first really showed just where I was lacking in my striking as far as in the Kung Fu close range striking. So Tony was able to really open my eyes and bring my level of striking to another level. And from there, he had a whole program. I started training that program, and I still do to this day. And, as often as possible, every few years we get together and I just kind of see what he's come up with. Definitely another, another Kung Fu genius, which I've been fortunate to be around many of them. Okay, Stephen Lorette, Sifu. As I mentioned, he is Tony Puyo's 7-star praying mantis teacher. I ended up starting to go up to, I would say, early 2000. I started going to New York City to train with other students of Julon, Sifu Fogg's Kung Fu brothers, and Stephen Lorette was one of them. And it was fascinating training with him because all his forms that he taught me, he had them all written down in Chinese. And so what's interesting is, the characters aren't going to change. And he would teach out of his book. And some of the stuff I learned from him, like I say, I still do to this day. Another, important teacher in my lineage of learning Kung Fu. He was, like I say, he was one who helped me learn a lot of the Chinese terms and understood deeper, like what, not only what the moves were, but the names of them and the references that they made. Next is Ji-Yu Ho, Sifu Ho. He's also a student of Julon, and this is, done a lot of training with him in New York as well, in New York City, Chinatown, a lot of times at the parks or inside different business buildings and whatnot. A lot of these guys didn't have schools. So from GU, he really was the one who helped me understand the Qigong in our lineage. He taught me the 18 Lohan Heigong, a type of Qigong, and it's a very famous in our lineage. And so I was fortunate to learn from him. And later I also learned the 108 Tai Chi Mantis or wooden dummy set. So another, Kung Fu uncle that was able to, help me along my journey. Next is Carl Albright. So Sifu Albright is also, and he's in Brooklyn, New York. And so traveling up to New York all the time, I slowly got to meet everybody. And then when I had the opportunity, I started training with Albright Sifu. And Albright Sifu was, his memory is unbelievable. I think he has a photographic memory. He could, on the spot, start doing a form he learned 40 years ago. I mean, and the amount of, Kung Fu he has learned is like, I don't know if I ever met anyone who learned as much Kung Fu and retained it. So he's another scholar. So he would just, once again, help me understand, further understand the praying mantis system. And he also was a Sifu and the Hongar, the tiger crane. But when I was with him, we mainly focused on the mantis training. And he also has a pretty impressive fighting career, a lot of no rules, like Valley Kudo style of fighting, bare knuckle fights and whatnot, underground fights. I think he went 10 years without ever losing. So this is a guy who's proven himself as well on the floor. Also, I saw a article in the newspaper in New York. Basically, it was a write-up showing how he had taken over 100 different weapons from people, because he also ran the subway. He was the train conductor for the subway there in New York City. So he's seen a lot and dealt with a lot. But it's pretty impressive to be able to be documented 100. Who knows how many situations he actually dealt with, and without getting hurt from that. So that's real life experience, and that all trickled down to his students and myself. And we're still close to this day. Yes, it's just like he figured it out. He was a guy who, I used to stay with him at his house all the time, and he was always cooking. And yeah, he's just very, very happy. And he's also into magic. I was fortunate to hang out with a lot of his magic friends there in New York. So yeah, very, very happy, balanced human being. Raymond Nelson. So after training in New York for many years, I got a message from Sifu Raymond Nelson, and he said, about coming to visit him. And the address was in Harlem. And I remember I was in Texas at the time, so, flew up, took the train, found his building. Took me a while to actually get in the front door, and walking up the stairs, I could hear the jazz playing, and sure enough, I walk up the stairs and he's playing music, and it was just like perfect, because I'm a huge jazz fan as well. So it was kind of a cool connection there. And then I waited there several hours till the rest of his clan showed up, and Louis Vito and all the other guys. And when it was time to train, we went out into the hallway and just started playing hands. And that's where, I learned a lot of praying mantis from Raymond Nelson was, on the floor playing hands. We worked on a couple sets of bomb, bow, goon, lick, but we mainly did our training on the floor. And it was Raymond Nelson's teachings that really shifted me in my practice and the way I ran my school. And I started training with him. It's been a little over 20 years. And I still see myself as a student of his, and I'm following, all the guidance that he's given me, from, getting as strong as possible to understanding the praying mantis system, but understanding it from hands-on, not just, sitting around talking and philosophizing about it. Well, one of Raymond Nelson's top students is Louis Gennaro, and to this day, Louis is my older brother, my big brother, and he still helps me all the time. We stay in contact, and I've done a lot of training with him. He's really helped me understand how to play hands at a higher level. Raymond Nelson and Louis really showed me how to encompass, from Qigong to the forms to iron palm training. All the training that we've done is how to manifest all of that on the floor while we're playing hands. It's pretty impressive to see someone operate at that level. And I've been very fortunate, and to this day, we still stay in contact. And he's been a huge. Raymond Nelson's been a huge reason why, I, ended up developing the Iron Mantis martial art system. Raymond Nelson's nickname was Iron Fist Nelson. I also heard him referred to as Iron Mantis. Lastly, I would like to give a big shout out to my Kung Fu brother, Sifu Brian Bateman. Bateman and I have been friends for decades. We've been through a lot of different stuff. We've helped each other along the way. He's a scholar, and he's helped me understand more about praying mantis as well, especially over the last several years, more of the scholarly side. He's just recently put out a Qigong book of the 18 Arhat Qigong as taught by Sifu Lee. And so, that's just shows you the level of knowledge he has on the system, to be able to, put out the books that he has. And he helped Sifu Lee put out several of the books. But we work together all the time, and it does help to have someone to bounce things off of and to help, to keep, moving the system forward. And also Sifu Pablo Morales, we work a lot together, and we're working very hard to this day to make sure that our system of 7-star praying mantis is alive and well and being handed down to the next generation. So we work together on all the forms. We bounced the way we do the forms and how we're doing it, and so we keep in touch a lot as well.
That's it for today's episode, and thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on social media to join the conversation. Have questions, suggestions, or just want to share your thoughts? Drop us a message or send an email. Until next time.